music control the music. There we go.
Everyone out there in podcast world, hope you're having a great day. You're listening to a Watching Service Business Master podcast. I'm one of your hosts, sitting not virtually next to my co-host, Joshua Crouch. We are at CEO Warrior headquarters in New Jersey, and I get the honor to speak with some really good friends of mine that I've grown to really know over the past several years, being a member of CEO Warrior. And watching the progression of adding services and the pain points of doing that. Some people like to do a whole lot of adding services at the same time, and other people just bring one or two of them on at a time. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have a handful of guests we're going to swap out here, and just hear a little bit about your story, your growth, and the pain points and how you've kind of worked through them. Josh, you want to add anything?
No, this is great. So for people that don't know, this is actually where Tersh and I met for the first time. We'd known of each other for several years, and we actually met at a War Planet event a number of years ago. And that's kind of how it started on this journey. I started asking Tersh about podcasting, and here we are now, about 2.5 years later. So this is kind of cool. This is the last CEO War event in this building, so it's kind of neat. We're kind of wrap it all up here. But we're excited to talk with. We're going to start with Vince,
all right,
and kind of learn more about your story and your journey here over the last several years.
All right.
So if you introduce
where you want me to
yourself,
start at?
Who
Like
are
at
you?
birth,
let's
or-
introduce yourself, your company.
Start at birth.
All right. Well, of course, I think you already know, but I joined CEO Warrior same time you did.
Yep.
Same event, a little over 4 years ago.
Where were you when you started? Like, what did that look like?
So at that time, I was strictly doing garage doors, and I hit the magic $1 million mark, and I thought, man, I'm killing it. You know.
How long did it take you to get there?
10 years.
10 years.
Started in 2008.
Okay.
And 10 years to get to 1 million. And I joined first year. I mean, really, in about 3 to 4 months, we tripled the company just because I was doing so many things the wrong way. I didn't know how to price things. I didn't really have a really defined sales process. So went home, we put that in play, and we were tracking for 3 million. I mean, within just a few months. And so then I came back to the next event. I was really, really gung ho, and I thought, I was looking around the room. I hear these guys talking about doing 5 million, 10 million. And I was like, man. And so I looked, a couple guys I brought with me, and I'm like, man, if I won't say what I really said, but I said, man, if these other people could
These
can
guys
do HVAC and plumbing, I know I could kill HVAC and plumbing. So, I made the decision that day. I'm going to go home and I'm going to start HVAC and plumbing when I get home. And of course, some of the advisors
How was that? Like, what was that experience like? How long of a process? How long did it take you to bring it on?
So the advisors at that time, when I told them what I was going to do, when I was building out my 90-day plan, they go, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're never going to do that in 90 days. And so I went home to basically prove them wrong. In 60 days, we had a plumbing and HVAC company, and I wasn't the most successful one at the beginning. A lot of growing pains there.
Like what kind of growing pains did you experience?
Well, I was under the number one mistake I made is I was under the assumption that if you had a license from the state that you actually knew how to do HVAC and plumbing. And that was a major misstep because I made some terribly bad hires.
So you hired guys that had a license,
correct,
in HVAC, but they honestly didn't know what they were doing.
Correct. Yeah. And so, I mean, I used CEO Warrior process, and really what we've been doing in garage doors, similar operating process. Of course, they had no buy-in, to it, so that made it challenging. And then
how have you fixed that over time? Getting that buy-in from a guy?
Well, so really, I just every new manager that I brought in, I came to the events. I've been, well, I mean, the Service Business Live or whatever the current name for it. I think I've been to like 8 of them now, maybe 9, something like that.
Yeah.
And so every new manager that I had, I brought them in because that's the easiest way to introduce them to the world, to the CEO Warrior world. And sending a lot of guys to training. Tons and tons of training.
Is there a time where you've ever regretted sending people to training?
No, not really. You always get immediate results from it. I mean, when those guys and girls now that come back from, Road Warrior, that was the primary one we went to initially. And you get an immediate bump from there. And then it's really up to you to make sure that it sticks,
Did you take any of that, especially from like the Road Warrior? Because that gives you a process, right? It gives you something to guide the rest of your team that maybe hasn't been out, or your new hires. Have you taken that back?
I think the biggest thing about it, number one, the energy of being there, and it really gets them hyped up, and they see, okay, this really does work, and there's another 70 or 80 people here at the same time that are doing it, and when they come back, they're studs. For the first week, they're just burning it up. And
so what is it like, you being the business owner and garage doors are your background, and they're coming back as an HVAC or a plumbing technician? Like, did you learn HVAC and plumbing?
No, I still know very little about HVAC.
So how do you?
I can flush my toilet.
That's good. That's always a good thing. Put the toilet seat down.
I really like the no flush ones they have here.
All right, well, that's cool. So how do you, as a leader, lead someone that you don't necessarily like? Because a lot of business owners were technicians prior,
Right.
And a lot of times that's how we relate to the technicians is, okay, well, if you have a problem, call me on tech support. But you're not that guy.
No, and I don't. In garage doors, I know it. I can fix and diagnose pretty much anything over the phone for them. But I don't really have anything to even do with that portion of it anymore. It's really just about the numbers. And what I found on all of it is, the process of the checklist at the beginning of the job. That's the key to every single job we do. It really doesn't matter the trade. It's just a matter of, what's the line item on the checklist, and did you do it right? And then you just progress from there. So the checklist was the key component for us. Still is today. We harp on it. We still revise it a little bit.
Now, your
monthly.
checklist that you mentioned, are you talking? Is that a technical checklist, or is that like running the play as far as?
It's both, really.
Okay.
Our checklist is it has questions that they must ask. It has measurements or
Like what's the subcool superheat and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
Excuse me?
Never mind.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I was going to say,
Superheat, like, is that when it's real hot outside?
Yeah, pretty much.
I know those words are on there. I really don't know what they mean.
Gotcha.
Do you think that's actually helped you not? Because then you weren't that arm that was always that tech support. Someone could always call you because
I
like
feel
you
like
had to lean on the rest
that's
of your
a struggle that a business owner that's been.
Yeah, of course, it took me probably, I don't know, maybe a year before we finally got that really good tech guy in there.
How many do you think you went through in that time period?
A bunch.
A bunch. That's
yeah. Well,
that's a lot.
at the scale we're at now, it's not a bunch, but probably 8 or 10.
Yeah.
Guys before we finally got a small core of people. And plumbing it took years on plumbing. We finally do have a good core. I brought the new plumbing manager here this week, but plumbing, I've been through like 5 regimes of plumbing, but HVAC we got pretty well dialed in.
How have you had a technician who was a good technician but just didn't fit in absolute?
So what's the question again? I'm sorry.
Have you had a technician who was technically like a strong technician, but didn't fit the rest of your culture?
Yeah, we've had several of those that were really technically very, very good technicians that really all they wanted to do is go do bare minimum fixes because that's what typically mom and pop operations.
They didn't wanna
It's what I did in
provide
garage
options.
doors before I came here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, you think you're a fixer and you want to go out and fix, and not even really understanding that you're really doing a disservice to your customer by doing that fix, and then they're still it's going to break next year, it's going to break the following year, they're going to spend more money than
break in 90 days and it'd be a callback.
Right, absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, you touched it, you own it.
Right.
You know, now you're an idiot, and you could be the greatest technician in the world, but you didn't really thoroughly diagnose the issue. So, I mean, that part of it, I mean, yeah, I had to rely on a couple of people technically, but I mean, in the way the whole world's moving now with really all appliances, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's your refrigerator. I had this conversation the other day. I'm like, I remember when I was 20 years old, and we had a refrigerator that got handed down on probably 3 generations. I mean, this thing was like an old
That's
tank.
the one that you get stuck inside of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have to open it and defrost it. I mean, people don't even know what that is anymore. But I mean, that joker's probably still running somewhere. I don't know. But now, it becomes more of an age thing. And once it's out of warranty, replace it.
Yeah.
Energy, and then the energy cost when you put that into it. I mean, I learned enough about the highlights of the selling of it, energy efficiency, and that portion of it. So that's really, I mean, when I'm looking at it, from the office, it's just really what's it going to cost to fix it? And
do you ever come across the technicians who are very, tech savvy, and then you have a conversation with them, present options, make sure you present options on every call you go to, and they give you kickback saying, I'm not a salesman?
Oh, 100%. But I mean, we've redefined a little bit of that. We've taken a little more control over forcing that issue on every, I mean, they have to call in to project managers, to basically a higher authority in the company. And we verify that, that yes, you ran the checklist, and yes, that you built options. Because I mean, we know that's, when they run that play, it's successful every single time. Our closing rates go up, they skyrocket. Our average tickets skyrocket. And every time that we don't do it, it becomes a big problem. And it's usually a lasting problem, because there's going to be callbacks or 1-star reviews. You screwed me over. Your guy was here 2 minutes.
Do they see that? Do you show your technicians whenever you failed as a company?
100%. Yeah. And I mean, 1-star reviews, that's a level 5 emergency when we get a 1-star review. I mean, yeah, I mean, that every guy in our company knows if I get a 1-star review, I am in deep doo-doo. No, not
don't
to say
go see
that.
Vince. What? Don't go see Vince, like avoiding for the next week or two.
Right. Well, and all the reviews come to my phone instantly, so I know before anybody in the company knows. So they are fully aware that is not acceptable.
So Vince, I know we have some compact episodes here. So you joined COR about 5 years ago?
4
years ago. So you're about a $1 million garage door company.
Well, like late 18.
Okay. So what does that look like today?
The garage door side?
Just the entire company. What does the company look like as far as departments, revenue? What does that look like today?
So garage doors will probably be in the $7 million range.
So you didn't just grow the HVAC and plumbing, like
it wasn't just grow their top line revenue.
You grew
it through
the existing.
Oh yeah. Well, so garage doors went from 1 to 3, like right out of the gate, and then we've grown it to, like I said, it'll probably be around 7 million this year. Of course, all the other, I mean, I do HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. HVAC this year will probably do 9 or 10 million or so. Plumbing and electrical bring up, the remaining portion of that.
Wow, and that's in 3 years, 4 years.
A little over 4 years.
What do you think? Because I know I talked to you out here real quick, and we were talking about Trainual, and you're talking about processes and SOPs. How important has that been for your company as you guys have grown to have that stuff?
It's an ongoing thing, because I mean, when we first started, it was like 10 sheets of paper. Here's the whole everything, and it was pull more stuff out of the den, stuck our name on the top, and the den.
You're right.
Yeah. So
the platform that CO Warrior uses.
Yeah. So we pull the information out there, stamp our name on it, and here's the process.
Right.
So then we refine it a little more and create it. Well, then once you get all these processes created, like, so then they got stuck in a book and then they're gone, and then we recreate them again. And, you know, that's an ongoing issue. Of course, I mean, we use Trainual now, and that's helped a lot, but we've used several different platforms to try to keep all that stuff organized, keep it in one place where people can find it. But every year it's an ongoing deal, because I mean, at the rate that we've grown and the number of people, and then we got multiple locations, and it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So last question that I'll ask, and what's been the biggest pain point that you've had in business, and how have you overcome it, or have you overcome it?
Well, I mean, as we grow, new pain points seem to happen every day.
Yeah.
You know, there's challenges that we have now that I never dreamed that we would even have a challenge. I mean, just before I walked into this podcast, the guys were asking about trucks, and they're like, "Hey, you know, you were here a year ago and you said you ordered, 50 truck or 30 trucks." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't even have them all yet." So, but, and then we ordered 8 or 75 more for next year already.
Dang.
So, I mean, that's anticipated growth. So, I mean, like that, those problems, I mean, they're big problems when you need the trucks.
Right.
But if someone told me 5 years ago that I'd be worried about getting 2 trucks, maybe. But I mean, the thought of ever even needing 80 trucks would be, was not even fathomable. I mean, honestly, I was sitting right there in the front row when I joined here, and I had my wife with me, and I was like, man, if we ever got to 3 million, I mean, it's over.
Just retire.
We're done.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And now I'm like, we're expecting to grow more than that every year. I mean, I'm going to be really upset if we don't achieve those kind of marks on an annual basis. But, it's just everything just gets in such big volume and what you're doing. I mean, those are probably big. Well, I guess some of it's like the job that I have is completely changed, because I don't, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not really involved in anything in terms of selling anything. It's really more just looking, okay, how did we do yesterday? What kind of numbers did we sell? What kind of margins were we at? Why do we have 20 opportunities and we closed 2? Why,
Do you feel like you've lost connection with people because of that? Because that's what you're looking at now?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt you will.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up to about 130 employees, and that's another thing. I mean, if you ever told me that I was going to walk in my building and not know the names of 20 people in there, I'm like, yeah. And now I'm like, who's that?
They've been working here a year.
Right. Yeah. Now, if they've been there a year, I
just
know them.
kidding.
But yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon to walk in and there'll be 3 people onboarding in one day. I mean,
It's
and
like, that guy's name's James. He's been here for a
right,
long time.
yeah, I forget it.
Cool, Vince. I really appreciate you hanging out with
Well,
us.
I thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. This is
Absolutely.
great.
Next up, I think we have
Thank you.
GJ. Hey, oh, we got Jay. Come on up here, Jay. How are you, buddy?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good. We got to chat a little bit earlier and catch up a little bit, which was great.
Yeah, it's been a while. I haven't seen you for a couple of years, so it's good.
It feels
Good to
like
see you.
it's been forever.
Well, good. I'll act like I don't know anything about you because I don't know anything about you. So why don't you introduce yourself to me and who you are and what service that you Goodbridge Services? Is that,
Yeah,
I say
we
that
do
right?
service, electrical.
Oh, okay.
We're electrical. My name's Jay. Jacob Reed. We haven't met yet.
No.
But yeah, I've been with the Warriors, I think similar to Vince. We started back in 2018. So it's been a little while. I haven't had the gains that Vince has yet, but we're working on it.
What did it look like when you started? What did your company
My
look
story was
like?
different. I kind of started on accident. So I was getting ready to hang up my contractor's license. So I was tired of working for contractors, chasing money, not getting paid, losing revenue every year, trying to make ends meet. And I made a phone call looking online for a CRM company, somebody to help me organize what I did have. And we'd be lucky to do 500,000 a year. We're myself and maybe two other guys. We're just doing small residential remodel work. And
So new construction at all, or just remodels?
mostly some hospital work,
okay.
residential remodels, some custom homes,
Yeah.
and some TI stuff. A lot of, nothing big, nothing really big.
All electrical?
All electrical.
Yeah.
Yeah, just doing what I know. That's where I came from. I cut my teeth doing the same type of work. And so when I left the company that I was working for, I just continued doing the same thing.
That's what most all of us do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so had no idea of the world I was going to enter. Now, we started in 95, so I had been in business for a while, but I don't think I wasn't really running a business.
Right.
You
It was
own
a
a
job.
Yeah, I had a job. So after the economy crashed and came back, it wasn't the same. We just couldn't get any traction. So I was just kind of scrambling, trying to find out what to do. Got referred to CEO Warrior, and we were broke, stone cold broke. We had an emergency credit card. So I was talking to
Is
one
that
of
how
the-
you signed up?
That's how I signed up. Actually, I
That's how I
signed up. I
signed
don't
up
think I
too.
had it for the first payment. I remember talking to Disney. I didn't have the first payment for the first month.
Yeah,
It was going to
I
have
was
to
the
go on
same
the card.
exact way.
Yeah. So it was, it cost me every bit of that card plus some on another card to fly here, pay for the event and get a hotel. And I figured, you know what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We'll probably go bankrupt. I'm going to hang it up anyway. I'm going to get a job and we're going to start a regular life after 25 years of doing my own thing. And within the first couple hours of being in this building, I realized there was something different. So I was like, what the hell's going on here? The service world, they were speaking a different language. I swore I was in a different country. It was like someone who was speaking Chinese or something with KPIs and ROIs, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So, but the people were very willing to just explain stuff, and they go, yeah, you're in the construction industry, Jay. Service world's totally different. By the end of that week, I'd made the decision I was going to go home and fire all the contractors that I worked for, and I was going to spend the rest of that year just cleaning up messes.
Is that what you did when you went back home?
I don't even know if I made it home. I think I went right to, we had a small little shop.
Yeah.
I went there and sent emails to everybody.
Yeah.
It was
How did that feel, but also how was that transition from going from the construction world?
Especially since you did it so long.
Yeah, you did it a while.
yeah. When I left Jersey, I had a confidence I hadn't had in a long time. I knew it was going to
Okay.
work.
Yeah.
If
That
not, I was going
fire
to
in
blame
you.
Mike Disney. I told him, hey, I may not make this, man. I can't pay you if I don't make some money. And
Right.
just a quick cap of what happened when I went back. I pissed off a lot of contractors because now they had to go find another sub, and general contractors don't like to do that.
Right.
So I lost a lot of friends. Some of those people I worked for over 15 years, some
wow.
even 20. So we broke some ties. They didn't understand. I said, I'm going to go in the service business. We're going to change direction a little bit. And no one knows what the service business is.
The service business in the electrical world is completely different than the HVAC world, I feel like. Or
Yeah,
it doesn't, it's not a normal conversation to have like an electrical service company.
No, right. I know that now. Back then, I didn't. I just knew I didn't want to work for another contractor.
Yeah.
I just said, man, if I can work for a homeowner, I can talk to people. I
Right.
can install stuff. I just didn't want to fit another set of plans. I wanted to go hang fans and change panels, whatever it took to not do what I was doing before, I was happy with. And I was just going to give it a run, see if it worked. If it didn't work, I was already at peace with hanging it up.
That's a good way to think about it too, because Disney and I were actually talking about it earlier, and we have a friend of ours that is the mentality. Sometimes we get in our own way, and I get in my own way, and I'm like, I could probably do something else, but there's risk involved with it. And we have a friend of ours who's like, I could fail, I could lose it all today, and I could start over tomorrow, and be just fine with it. And he's crazy successful because of that, and having that the ability to just release it all and be like, all right, let's do it. And it's a completely different feeling. I feel like.
Yeah, it's one of my superpowers, getting in my own way.
Yeah, right.
I'm really good at it.
I'm right there with you on that one.
I'm good at that. So I don't know, did I answer your question about when I went back?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
cool.
So you went back, you decided you would go all in on service.
Exactly.
So from that point forward, What does the transition look like for the last 4 years?
That transition was, again, it was unknown. I just knew I had to figure out from the 3 or 4 days, it was a Service Business Live, or I think is what it was called back at the time.
Yeah.
I just knew I had to figure out how to get the phone to ring. You know, talking to other people, you need a website, you need to get Google ads and all this stuff I didn't know how to do. So one of the vendors here helped me out a lot. He was out of my league. I couldn't afford him to do what I needed. He said, just call me whenever you want, and I'll answer any questions for you.
Really?
He's still one of the vendors here. So with digital,
Steven's a class act.
He is a great
So
dude.
he played a big role in answering my dumb questions, and I had a lot of them. So he actually helped me interview several people that I could afford on the digital marketing side of things, and helped me with what questions to ask. So within about 3 months, we had a website getting built, and we were working with someone to help the phones get ringing. And then we signed up for a lot of paper leads, the home advisors and that kind of stuff, just stuff to get the
keep
phones to ring.
ringing.
Is there anything that you did in that time period that you regretted doing, and you did it basically out of maybe ignorance or desperation because you hadn't been in the service world?
You don't know what you don't know.
Oh, right, 100%.
So I don't know. I didn't really know what to regret yet.
Yeah.
I was still just trying to figure out what I needed to do to get a phone ring, how to answer the phone properly. And it was me and 3 other guys. And the minute I came back and explained what I was going to do, one of them quit.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I had an excitement, and he was like, "You're crazy." And he just goes, "Hey man, I'm going to go out. I got an opportunity to go work for a company doing construction." And so we lost him right away. So it was down to me and another guy. And I got to get that picture posted. It's pretty cool. Got my wife, myself, and my 2 guys standing in front of our vans. That when we went back, we put just some vinyl lettering on.
Yeah.
And they said, "We're now going to do some service work." Now, we didn't do a whole lot that year, though. That year, I think we ended 2018, 500,000, not much really. I spent a lot of time finishing obligations that I was obligated already, previous to making this decision. And my goal was by January 2019, I was never going to answer a phone to a contractor again. I will never subcontract it. I'll go under before I'm a subcontractor again. And that was my goal. So 2019, January 1, I was done.
Yeah.
So I woke up, and it was just a breath of fresh air, but you felt kind of naked.
Right.
Because you relied on these guys. They were your bread and butter. They paid your
like a
bills.
fallback.
It was comfort also, 'cause
Yeah,
that's
so
what you knew.
But it was liberating.
Mhm.
Like, all right, I'm ready to do this now. And so we ended up getting rid of the first marketing company that we tried, and stepped it up a little bit more. And by mid-year 2019, we were running pretty good. We ended up selling a couple little vans. We had a couple small little Nissan vans.
Yeah.
We got rid of them, traded them for 5 new high roof Transits, did a little rebranding, wrapped them, and we ended 2019. Yeah, you remember we were.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, we were.
I remember seeing all the
changing
bands.
the look, and
Uh-huh.
we ended 2019 at like 1.5 or 1.4 or something. So we grew $1 million.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Well, that was without, you didn't even really
That's
do
big.
service work before that, so it's almost like a brand new company.
yeah, it was a brand new company. In fact, I tell people we started in 2019.
Right.
I don't say we have a lot of experience as an electrician, but as a business owner, really started in 2019.
Yeah.
Decisions were made, putting things in place in 2018. But 2019 it solidified. The choice was right. I was looking forward to going to work. One of the big attractions when I joined this world was the culture. The people you met here, meeting other people who had built companies, and how they had the culture in their company.
Mhm.
I wanted to be able to walk in and love the people I worked with, that knew that they had my back, I had their back. That was exciting to me. I'd never experienced that in my world. I've always worked for 1-2-man shops. I've never experienced that
Okay.
culture, working around with other people.
Yeah.
I showed up at the contractor or to construction sites, and that was my world. So this was a new chapter to figure out based off of a couple days here.
That's awesome.
That is
That's
wild,
insane.
yeah. But
Just
there's so
ignited
much-
the passion in
There's
you.
so much of a fire hydrant of information that you get. It
Oh,
can
it's- yeah.
overwhelm you at the same time, but it's the drive. Some people get upset about the fact that they didn't know all this information, and I admire the fact that you went back and you're like, okay, I didn't know all this. Now I'm going to use this information to the good.
Yeah, if I could answer that last question, do I have any regrets? It's not really a regret because I didn't know about it, but I regret not knowing about it. I wish I had known
Yeah.
about the service industry back when I started
Right.
as an electrician. I'd have knocked on
Would
doors.
have started a lot sooner.
Yeah, I started 30 years ago.
Right?
Yeah. I'd be retired right now.
You'd be teaching the class.
Yeah.
So what does your company look like today? I guess we're halfway through the year. What does it look like at the end of 2022?
The end of 2022, we finished right at about 2.7. We had a $3 million goal,
Yeah.
and we were shy a little bit. And I know why we're shy. We're shy because you have to stay engaged with people that are coaching us. And if you don't, you lose that momentum.
Yeah.
I know what
Well, I think a lot of people think like, well, I hired a coach or whatever. That's like, it's going to build itself, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. But it doesn't. You got to roll up your sleeves. You got to do the work.
And early on, like when 2020 hit and COVID hit, I made a huge mistake because we were coached, double down on your marketing right now. And I panicked. I shut down all marketing. I was like, I got people I like here now. We're building something. And who knew what was going to happen?
Yeah.
So we shut everything
I don't
down.
have to do that.
And it was cool though, after that short period of time, we still grew by about 400,000 in 2020 with no marketing. We still kept on some pay-per-lead stuff, like home advisor stuff and Yelp, that kind of stuff. But we didn't spend a dime on any digital marketing or.
Yeah. You're in an area where you have to spend a little bit of money on Yelp.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yep. So 2021, when things opened up again, and we never slowed down. We stayed busy.
Yeah.
We had a hard time finding guys. That's always been our problem. I can find electricians all day long, but I can't find electricians who want to
Do service work.
Do service work. Yeah.
Mm.
You start asking them to sell stuff and talk to people. It's
Like,
tough
wait a minute, I
for
don't
us.
have to just look at studs all day and drill holes.
Yeah, it was a skill that I had to learn a skill to sell the company to make it sound good to somebody who wanted to change their mindset, change what they were used to doing. And
That's a challenge in itself because us as business owners or as a manager, we see our business all day, every day. Like we see the flaws in our business, and for us to be able to still sell that and present it to someone else and not feel like you're lying about it, it can be a challenge sometimes.
Well, it is because when you're selling it, you're forecasting
Right.
maybe markers or promises that you haven't reached yet, but they're there with the right people. You can hit them.
Exactly.
And when you tell people, hey, we got a bonus program, you can make this, and they don't.
Yeah.
You got to have things in place to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in order for them to obtain that promise you made them.
Right. Like it's not me that's holding them back from that
Right.
bonus.
Yeah, you got to.
And we clearly communicate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is one of the toughest things. We're getting much better at it now.
Yeah.
I forecast some cool stuff in the near future.
That's cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, this
Excited.
is a great story. It's really great to talk to someone. It's literally, you completely just flip the switch and decided we're doing something totally different.
Yeah.
And you've made it successful here in just a few short years. So
It seems like forever.
I'm sure it does. There's a lot of learning, especially
time.
all the stuff you didn't know.
Yeah.
Because that den that we talked about is massive.
Yeah.
It is. The den is massive and it just keeps growing. And I've been here a little while. I know how to navigate it, but I get lost. And I still have to reach out to my master advisor instead of wasting time. How do I find this?
Yeah.
The word you think you should be able to type in, it doesn't come up. So
Staying
but
connected.
you got help. It's not like
Yeah,
have
staying connected with people who can help, and the rest of the city is massive in that.
Yeah, exactly. And our goal is to add at least another trade. So that
that's
should
exciting.
happen. That's this year's, the plan is by the end of this year is to have plumbing.
Cool deal.
But again,
That's
if I
awesome.
can just get rid of that superpower, get out of my own way,
Right.
and I will be able to do it.
Jay,
That's
man,
awesome,
we
Jay.
really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you hanging out with us, buddy.
Cool, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thanks.
That was
I'll take it.
Oh, and a huge shout out to Jay for coming and helping us out. Who we got next? Josh? Okay. Josh Roberts.
Come on down.
What's up, man? How are
Florida's
you?
in the house. What's up, Josh?
How you doing?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
How are you doing?
Good, good. So for those who don't know who you are, can you do a quick introduction of yourself?
Yeah, I'm Josh. I own AirDocs Air Conditioning. It's a heating and air conditioning company. We also do dryer or duct cleaning, indoor air quality.
Where are you located?
Florida,
Yeah,
Vero Beach, Florida.
Very cool.
That's the jungle out there.
Yeah,
At least that's what they say.
it's fun.
Yeah, it's a very competitive market for sure.
It is, yeah.
So share a little bit about yourself and kind of when you joined this world and
Yeah, what did your business look like Because you joined 2020, I believe, right?
Yep.
So what did your business look like before? What drove you to come in here?
Honestly, I think we were growing, but it wasn't healthy.
Yeah.
And it was kind of by luck, I guess, or very
Not by
hard work.
design.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah, and the profit wasn't where it was supposed to be. I just knew that there was stuff that I didn't have that I needed.
How long have you been in business?
Since I started working for myself in 2015.
Oh, yeah, 2015.
Okay, so about 5 years before you joined Cedar Wire.
Yep.
Okay, what did your company look like when you came in the first like service business live or whatever it was called at that point?
We were at 1.5 million, making a little bit of money. I think our profit was like 4%.
Okay.
It was working, but it wasn't.
Well, the
great.
fact that you knew it was 4% that says a lot about you as a business owner in general, because a lot of people are just P&Ls. I don't know what that is. Like
There's some money in the
QuickBooks?
checking account.
Yeah, the one
Checkbook.
thing I knew to read was that very bottom line.
The most important one at least,
Yeah.
so that's good. Awesome. And so 2020 comes, you got invited, you get referred here. How'd you get into this world?
I think it was Tersh.
Yeah.
It was.
Small
Yeah.
world.
I
It's
think
not a small world around you.
Right.
I think I
He just
reached out
knows
to him
everybody.
because I knew he was a member, and so I wanted to get some feedback from someone that was in it. And he had a bunch of good things to say, so I was like, I'm gonna try this out.
Check this thing out, see what it's all about. So how have you, since being in this world or over the past couple of years, how have things changed for you, or have they changed, or what would you say?
They've changed drastically. So I was in the truck still before I came here.
Yeah.
I was just starting to try and get out, but I just didn't know how to make that transition.
It's a tough transition, especially if you've been in it for a couple of years.
You feel like it was always kind of pulling you back in, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's like a
and-
gravity thing. It's
and
always
when
pulling
you're-
you back,
Technical, it's like your safe zone and you want to
Yeah.
hop back. It's easy to hop back in.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's what you know.
Yeah.
The
And-
business owner stuff, the leadership and doing price books and all that stuff, that's foreign. So it's like, well, I'd rather just stay where I'm comfortable.
Exactly, yeah.
Sometimes I know that I find that I'm guilty of a hero complex where it's a pat on my back if they need my support. So it's like, okay, oh, you can't figure it out? I got this. I'm going to take care of this. And so it's like an ego thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. You can't figure it out. I can. It wasn't until I had to just let them fail and be okay with failures, not complete failures, but giving them enough of a failure. That's whenever we kind of really took off in that area, because otherwise I was wearing myself out, just constantly going and being tech support I remember one time where I had 135 phone calls in one day. And I said, that is obnoxious. Like I literally cannot do anything. I have 135 phone calls. And the one that really just broke the camel's back was when the guy called me and said, what do you think's wrong with this unit? And I was like, what's your pressures? He said, I don't know. I'm not on the roof yet. And I was like, I want to reach to this phone and beat the tar out of you. And so the next day I implemented this new process where they had to provide me with 3 solutions to every problem that they had. And if they didn't, I hung up on them. And the first time I did it, I was like, and I went through the whole process with everybody. I said, what's your 3 solutions to this problem? So at least I knew that they put some thought and effort into it. And they're like, I don't have any solutions. And I hung up on them. They called me back. They said, I think we got disconnected. I said, yeah, we did. Click. And they got the message. So it was one of those things where it was challenging to not answer the question, because I knew the answer to the question. It was a very simple answer, but it was partially we were buddies and they wanted to have a conversation. And the other part of it was they were just being lazy. And I couldn't grow a company whenever you're on the phone 135 times a day. So getting out of my way with my ego, that really helped me a ton there. But I don't know if that's you or not. That's just
That is exactly what was happening. So
Yeah.
I actually did the same thing, counted the calls and had a conversation with one of the techs because he called me 27 times in a day.
Yeah.
And he only had 5 calls. So, it's exactly what you said. It's laziness or them training us, or we're training them. So we give them those answers, they're just going to keep calling. It makes their job easier.
Yeah.
So we gotta.
Well, then they have the backing of the owner, right? They're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm safe because the owner said this is the way to do it, and if I do it that way, I can't get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
it's
good point.
like a scapegoat kind
Yeah,
of thing.
scapegoat. Something you said there that I want to make sure that everybody really catches is that they were either training you or you were training them. And something that Ari Mizell said to us a while back that really stuck with me is every time you communicate with someone, you're training them on how you're willing to be communicated with. So if you're willing to take that 26 phone calls, then they're going to keep doing that every single time. And that's a hard way. I mean, it's hard to transition that when that's what you're used to.
Yeah. And I mean, really you just have to not answer.
Yeah.
And then make
rip the
them
Band-Aid off.
struggle, make them fail, like you said, and then they learn from it. They don't learn from us helping them, at least not very quickly.
It's like children.
Yeah.
They gotta make the mistake. They
How
gotta
long
skin
did
their
it take
knee.
you to do that transition? Did you just like rip the Band-Aid off and just not answer the phone calls like I did?
Yeah, I
Probably
did, because
failed
I think
some.
it was that day when I counted 27 calls from one person. I think it was 70 or
The fact that you knew how many phone calls it obviously bothered you. It's like, okay,
Right.
there's a problem here.
Yeah. And that's when I realized something has to change, because there's no reason for me to even be in the office and want to answer this many calls. Because I can't get anything done.
100%. I literally was sitting at my desk and I was like, why am I even here? Like, I should just be at the house because I'm just answering phones all day. Like, this is ridiculous.
So how did that, when you made the transition, you finally pulled the Band-Aid off, you made the transition to be the owner, not the tech. What did you see difference happen with your guys, your team? What happened after that point?
So the team really stepped up. It was weird for me because I was so used to collecting the money that it was really, gave me a lot of anxiety not collecting the money. It was, because I was so used to seeing it on every call. So that was probably the most difficult part. It's like, okay, we're still in business, like we're still collecting money. I just don't physically take it, So I would say it took me at least 6 months to get out of the van completely and I had to give my van away. I had to do it or else it would have never happened.
That's the same with me.
I've heard people do that when they give the tools away. Like literally, here's all my tools. I don't ever want to see them again.
I've done that before and then bought the tools back again. And then been like, why the
Gave 'em
hell
away
why am I running this call? Like, I have guys that could be doing this and give those tools away. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, and I still have those challenges where I've given all my tools away. I still have my Vito bag, but it's empty with spider webs in it. So I'm like, man, I need to fill this up, but I don't want to because then it may.
You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What happens is it turns into that one small Vito bag with like a fuel piece in it to sliding up underneath the backseat of the truck to, let me just run, catch this call real fast. And now I got a truck bed full of tools.
Yeah, that's something I always thought was a strength. Being an owner was being good in the field, but I've heard other people say that it was something they regret. And now I'm starting to realize what they mean by that.
Yeah, well, I think when Vince was up here, it was the same thing. Like he didn't know anything about HVAC and plumbing, and that's kind of what I was asking him was that actually a good thing? Like, 'cause you had to go find somebody else that was going to manage it. You could not be tech sports. You had to find strong people to be a part of your company.
Yeah.
You couldn't just rely on, Tersh is going to take care of that for me today because Tersh knows everything.
Right.
Although you do that for the podcast too.
I
so
do know everything.
He literally does.
Do you foresee adding trades like plumbing or electrical or anything?
Yeah, we are adding electrical now, just
So you are.
going through the licensing. Should have it in about a month or two.
Oh, okay, cool.
Nice.
That's really interesting.
So how because obviously we've talked and I know a little bit about you, but the Florida market is notorious for having
very
chops.
cheap. Yeah, cheap.
Literally got guys will throw an air conditioner back. They're going to give it for beer money.
Yeah.
How do you compete against
Yeah, how do you compete and then make not make 4%, but make a decent profit where it's actually like a buildable business?
It's really implementing everything that CEO Warrior taught us, just the processes, building value, just great service from start to finish.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, we're at the same closing rate we were when we sold stuff for cheap, because we were cheap when we started too. And it's just
Was that cheap just because that's what the market was? And it's like, hey, we're going to be like in the market range, but don't want to be too, it's kind of that thing like, well, I don't be the highest, I don't be the lowest, right? Before you get coached, like it's okay to be the highest.
Yeah,
It's like, well, I'm going to be somewhere in the middle
exactly.
because it's like the comfortable middle, right?
I worked for older companies that were doing things from still the 80s or 90s. So that's what I knew. And I just said, I know what their prices are. It'd be like $10 cheaper.
I think that's how we all did it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then that's not you today.
No. So we are the most expensive by far, but, you know, our quality is unmatched.
I asked Vince this earlier, but do you have any technicians that you've kind of brought on and they just couldn't get into that? Like, I can't charge that much money. They don't understand overhead, or they don't understand the building, the value aspect of it.
Yeah, so that was a big problem for us, but we started using their one man in a truck exercise. So they come up with their own pricing, and that's part of our onboarding.
Okay.
So when everyone does that, there's only been one person that came out cheaper than us.
Really?
So they have 100% confidence in our pricing after that.
Interesting.
So
That's
do you ever find that you have to go back and do that again?
Yeah, so that's where I have failed recently, that I actually said I need to start doing this like quarterly.
I feel like I do the same thing where like we just forget how much it costs to do things.
Yeah.
Whenever, especially if I.
Well, it's because they're getting feedback from homeowners like, oh, it's too expensive. That's twice as much as the last 3 companies that gave me a bid. And they start not believing, like, well, maybe we are too expensive, right? Because it's like that, you constantly hear it, you think, oh, we are too expensive. But then as soon as you do the exercise, you're like, oh, now I remember why. All the things we have to pay for, all the nice benefits that I get to have as an employee that go into that pricing.
Exactly. I think it's just they see the revenue, and that's all they really see.
Yeah.
And then they're thinking, I make whatever it is, and the rest is his.
You're a bazillionaire.
You know?
Yeah.
You're Jeff
exactly.
Bezos to them.
And I was guilty of that as a technician. Maybe not 100%, but I was thinking pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So what does revenue look like at the end of 2022?
So 2022 was, I think we signed up in 2020.
That's what the
was?
sheet said.
Yeah, so we were 1.5 when we signed up. The next year we did 2.2, and then we did 4.4 the year after.
That's awesome. So like triple the growth in 2
Yeah.
years. That's awesome.
And then we're on track for 7 this year.
Wow.
That's what's up.
That's awesome. It's funny when you start getting like the processes and stuff, you get it, the foundation there, everything just blossoms.
Yeah.
You know, it's like being really good at like a really good gardening. You plan everything the right way and it blooms.
Yeah, and building in your people, like making sure they're on the same page with like the one man in a truck, and then so they're confident in the price, and then building them up, you know, and them just loving the company and everything is done for them. You know, we supply all the tools and all of that stuff.
So you mentioned loving the company and that community that you've built there. Is there ever a time where you've brought somebody on that like was quickly spoiling things or could potentially have spoiled things?
Yeah, I had to get rid of one of my friends because of that.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a friend
Yeah.
and it's somebody that you've known for a long time. And
yeah, that was tough, but you know, eventually I was able to do it. I should have done it much sooner, but
That's usually,
I hear that a lot.
It's usually what it's like. You knew in your gut probably months or years before that like this needs to go, but you try to make it work.
yeah, and
You try to make it work. I can train them. I can make them better. I can get them on board, and then
Yeah.
it just never happens.
yeah, or it's very temporary.
Yeah.
I had a brother like that one time.
Yeah.
Should have fired him 12 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. Cool. Is there anything, this is the last question that we'll ask. Is there anything like that was just something that you regretted doing in business, in general in business? And how did you overcome that, if you did?
The biggest thing that really still drives me nuts today is whenever I go back and look at our old invoices and I see what we used to charge, and
Oh, yeah.
then I realize why it took so long to get to 1.5 is because we never charged what we should have.
Right.
Back then, we were the cheapest.
Yeah.
And we still got called expensive, you know, so that was the weird part to me.
That is wild.
But that's really the only thing I still look at today when I'm looking at an old install. When I'm talking to a customer, I look at that invoice, I'm like, I cannot believe I did that.
You work so hard, like you're working yourself to the bone and undercharging.
Yep.
Yeah.
And paying
Doesn't
myself
make
nothing.
sense. When you now that you know what you know, it's like, what the hell was I thinking? Like, why was I doing this for so long?
I was so scared to rip someone off, and I was really just ripping off myself the
Yourself.
entire time.
Yeah.
I would go with months without pay, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome,
Yeah,
Josh. We appreciate you sharing. This was awesome.
Yeah, we really
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Cool, man.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, buddy.
I can take the mic.
Cool, guys. I appreciate it. Oh, hey, look who we got. Mr. Brian.
you go, Brian. Oh, you brought an audience.
You brought an audience.
Even better.
How are you, buddy?
Good. Good. How are you?
You ready?
Absolutely. I've been born ready. I don't know about my seating position here, but
You sure that's the side you want? You want to switch? You want to switch chairs?
right.
So for people that don't know, you can introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, my name is Brian Pritchard, A to Z Dependable Services in Niles, Ohio, around the Youngstown area. If you draw a line between Cleveland and Pittsburgh, we're right smack dab in the middle.
Very cool. Also a piano player.
What's that?
Also a piano player
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been playing the piano since I was about 6. Yep.
and singing.
And so that's about 20 some years.
About 15 years.
Yeah, something like that.
So tell us about your business and how you got started in business.
Oh, it's pretty interesting. So I've always been a serial entrepreneur, like many people here.
Oh, yeah.
I've always had a whole bunch of stuff I was dabbling with since I was a kid, whether it was cutting grass, washing cars, cleaning the chrome on cars, or putting furniture together. I even programmed VCRs at one point for people that didn't know how to program the VCR to
What's
record
a-
their favorite shows.
What's a VCR?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Ivy's asking right
Exactly.
now. She's like, what is that?
So there was always something. So I was going to school for business, working at Sam's Club. At Sam's Club, I was doing outside sales. Outside sales, I got exposure to a lot of business, and I was like, I'm going to be in business. So I was going to school for business, and I was living at home. I was 22, 23 years old, going to YSU, working at Sam's Club, and the drain clogged at our house. Guy came to clean the drain. My dad said, "Hey, this guy's selling a business. This is a business you should get into." And I'm like, "What?" And I look out the window and I see this beat up Astro van that says A to Z sewer cleaning. And I'm like, "I'm not going to clean sewers. What's wrong with you, Dad?" And he's like, "No, seriously, just come down and talk to the guy." And I said, "No, I'm not going to clean sewers. Look at me. Do I look like I'm going to clean sewers?"
Business guy.
Yeah, some business guy, Dad. And he's like, "Just come downstairs and talk to the guy and see what he's got to say." And I said, "All right, cool." Go downstairs. The guy's talking, blah, 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 blah. That's what I heard. But then he said, "I raised 8 kids. My wife never had to go to work. There was always food on the table. There was always clothes on their back. 3 of my kids put them through college." So I'm like, wow. And I'm good with math. 8 kids plus him and her, that's 10. So I'm thinking 10 versus 1. There's 1 of me, 10 of them. All right, I get pooped on, whatever. That was it, man. That was it. So literally the next day, I went to the bank. I applied for a loan, and at school, I had just learned how to write a business proposal for getting a loan. So it was like right at the same time. So I delivered that proposal to the bank, went to work, and I said, "Hey, I'm putting in my notice." I had been there for 4.5 years. And I said, "I'm putting in my notice." And they said, "For what?" And I said, "I'm going into business." And this is Sam's Club. They wanted me to do manager and training. They wanted me to like stay and raise the corporate, go all corporate. And so the manager said, "Well, how do you know tell me about the business?" And I said, "Well, the guy came over the house yesterday. He said he had a business for sale." And I went to the bank and I applied for a loan.
Yes.
And he goes, "And you're quitting now?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I said I'm going to work with him for, a couple weeks or whatever to learn it. But yeah." And he goes, "So you didn't even get approved for the loan?" And I said, "No, but if they say no, the other bank across the street will say yeah. If they say no, the other bank across the street will say yeah." And he's like, "Brian, I'm going to tell you this. If you ever need to come back, we'll always take you back. But with that attitude, you'll never have to come back."
Yeah.
And Sam's Club is still a customer of ours.
Oh, really?
I learned how to put in my first water heater at Sam's Club. I learned how to flood on a commercial bathroom
Oh, wow.
at Sam's Club. And he knew it too. He
Yeah.
knew I was just sort of using Sam's Club as my training ground, and he was all cool with it, man.
That's
He's
awesome.
like, yeah, so it was really cool.
Talk about not burning bridges.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Just
You can't.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I got the loan.
you got the loan.
Yeah, and no, there's no reason to burn bridges. I gave them the notice.
Yeah.
They kept me on. I mean, I wasn't an employee, but my company actually made money off of the business that they gave me. So, they helped me,
Yeah.
when I was starting out in business. So
That's an awesome story.
it's fun.
How
It's
long
been
ago
fun.
was that?
Excuse me?
How long ago was that?
28 years.
Wow.
So 28 years. And my first year sales hustling was 36,000. That was my first year.
Damn.
We do 36,000 on a bad day now,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
last year we finished at 9 million and 10,000. We were
Yeah.
just
So what did it look like when you joined CEO Warrior? What did your company look like at that point?
well, I knew enough to know enough that I didn't know enough.
That
Right?
Sounds about right.
So we
yeah.
had a first decent year where I put money in the bank, paid out bonuses, had a big ass Christmas party.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
you're good.
Yeah, I had a really big Christmas party with the live band, and it was a really fun time. That was in 2014. Had all my vendors paid ahead in January, like made money, but I knew enough to know that it won't sustain if I don't get some coaching and some training. So I
Yeah.
seeked out CEO Warrior. And really, that's the best thing I ever did, because really since then, it's been a trajectory moving forward. I think we were under 2 million, maybe like 1.8 million when we joined in 15. And yeah, we're now over 9. But it's been a nice, slow, steady growth the whole time. I call it slow, but it's like 20-30% a year. And
That's still
so
really good.
yeah.
It's not
okay with it.
the stories you hear online, but it's 20-30% every year is really good.
Well, and the thing is is that one thing I think is the most important, and that's why our company, me and the company, won the award, the Dustin Folks Award, because I never wanted to get to the point where, like, I do walk in and I don't know people sometimes. Like, I didn't know people's names, and I think somebody else that was on here earlier, and I'm like, who is that guy? And it's like, to me, that's bad. Like, I want it to be to the point where I know who they are, so we have to put things in place so that I know who they are. I want to see their picture on the company staff hangout, and I want to see their face on our company Facebook page, and I want to see their face on the screen and the TV. Like, I want to put these things in place so that everybody knows, and then we want to have breakfast to celebrate a new employee, and we want to have like a meet and greet. So every time we have a new person, we do things like that. Or we find ways to celebrate people so that we don't lose that connectivity, because I felt that pain when we grew too fast.
Yeah.
So like that's really the thing that I think has helped to keep us.
So
moving.
that's the transition that I'm dealing with personally. And how do you avoid losing that culture when you get busy?
When you get
Busy.
ooh, well, right now, one of the things that we did, and I took a lesson from CEO Warriors, we hired a culture coordinator.
Okay.
And the culture coordinator, her main purpose is to recognize employees first, know who the employees are. I handwrite a personal birthday card, anniversary card to everybody that's there. She preps everything for me, gets everything ready. She preps for our parties. So we have company parties at least every quarter. We have something going on. More than every quarter, but usually it's
So
every
that's
quarter.
what I hear you say is you're spending money on that, and that's
Because it's
you
important.
have a position that's obviously an overhead expense. The parties are overhead expense. So that's money that's essentially coming out of your pocket, because that's could be profit, net profit. But you're spending it on that. Is it worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I feel it's worth it if I make less money, or if the company makes less money, but we have a strong culture. Having that strong culture, it pays dividends in the long run. Like, I'm not looking to get rich off of 1 year.
Yeah.
I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm in it to see employees' kids come on board. Like, I brought Joe with me here. Joe's stepson that he raised.
Yeah.
He works for us now. He's doing HVAC,
Oh, that's cool.
plumbing. He's doing great. Jeremy's been with me for 18 years. His son's been with us for a couple years. Chris Carr, he's been with us for 12 years. His son's been with us for 3 years.
Wow.
Jeff Krause, he's my warehouse manager. His wife is our CSR. Now she's a CSR manager. She's been with us. He's been with us for 7 years. Melissa, she's in dispatch. Melissa's husband, he works for us as well. Like,
This is a
When I
family.
talk about a family,
Yeah.
it's no lie. I mean, it's really a family.
So with that being
That's all.
said, how do you avoid family drama?
You don't. I mean, there's going to be family drama,
Yeah.
and everybody knows that the tolerance level is based upon what's best for the business, not what's best for the individual. They know that. They know that all coming in. And when you know that you really actually made a difference is when you hear your people training to that without having anything to do with you, saying, hey, I know you're my sister and I love you, but business comes first.
Right.
If you're a crap head,
You can
I'll
say
fire
it, it's
you.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you're a shithead.
I mean, you're in CEO's building. You could say
Yeah, right.
right. But I mean, that's the thing. So when they're speaking to that, that's great. That's how you know you're winning. And then when your culture speaks to the don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and you have a job. Like if you don't lie, you don't cheat, and you don't steal, and you don't try ripping people off, like you're gonna you're gonna stay here. You're gonna grow.
Have you ever had a couple working with you and split up and stay? Like, okay, so
They've split up
I
personally.
had this happen in my business, and the reason why I asked you is, so I was very weary about hiring a wife of a technician to work in the office, and I did anyways. She's a great person. She's still our CSR. They went through a divorce, and we were like, this could be kind of tricky because he's a very, very good technician. She's a very, very good CSR. We don't want the drama in the office. We don't want the drama in the work at all. Never brought it to work. Very cordial all the way around.
Right.
But that's not what I expected to happen. Like I expected to get drama. And
Oh yeah.
thankfully that's not what happened.
Yeah, it's amazing that what you see, what ended up happening is people rise to the occasion of being disciplined and being like a real human, because they could have gotten really crappy with each other, but they didn't.
Right.
And they know that, because that speaks to your culture though too. That
Yeah.
speaks to how you've built your culture, because if you didn't, and it's a willy-nilly just do whatever, like, I'm going to cause drama, then it's
Yeah.
a little different story.
That's a good point.
So yeah, so I can't think of an instance where there was a breakup or a separation or something like that that created drama for us. I wouldn't say that there's never been any drama, but everything sort of self-corrects in the long run, you
Yeah.
know, and it's culture corrected. It's not necessarily management correction. Sometimes it's
That's
culture
cool.
that
That's when you
pushes them
really
out.
know you've done it. Whenever the rest of the culture is the one that's doing the correction.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
and that's
sure.
where you see the payoff of the brunches, the events, the gatherings, the cards, all that stuff that you put into place originally. You see that payoff. Your dividends may not be financial, but it might be headache, stress, all
Right.
that other stuff that comes with it that business owner faces.
Disney said a long time ago, success leaves clues, right? So when you see other places, other businesses that have some success, and you can extract some of that and then take it into your culture, kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I took from Service Titan when we went to visit Service Titan and we did our onboarding with them at their facility in California is that there was always food there. Like they always had
Oh,
drinks,
yeah.
they always had Pepsi, they always had, a cooler that was stocked, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, whatever. So I took that back to my culture. We have an ice machine. We have big coffee, like really nice, really good gourmet
Yeah.
coffee machines. We have all the pop and Gatorade and waters that you can have. And
All the
then
what?
all kinds of
He
snacks.
said
and
pop.
Pops, not pot. No, this
Pop.
Pop
soda
is?
pops. Soda pop.
I think they call it Coke by you.
Yeah, it's called Coke. We're in the South.
But every month I see that bill and it's between like $2,000, $2,300, $2,500.
Is there ever a moment in your time and as a business owner and you're looking at numbers and you're like, $2,000, like, should I be spending $2,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that isn't as rewarding as seeing people appreciative of what you're doing. Now, if I didn't have a culture, excuse me, if I didn't have a culture that was appreciative, it may sway me to
Yeah.
say, hey,
Okay.
let's cut this.
Yeah.
But like they're genuinely appreciative of what I'm doing for them. And like, everybody always says like, it is the greatest service company on the planet, or it's the greatest culture,
Yeah.
that the connectivity that we have. And a lot of them know that, I could be doing other stuff with profits, but like I want to reinvest it back into them because they're making the investment to stay with A to Z.
Yeah.
So I want to make the investment for them to stay there as well and make sure that they're happy and they're taken care of, and
Yeah.
so that their kids will come and their kids will work.
Right,
And then
yeah.
their kids.
Generation, it's a generational company.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
absolutely.
That's really awesome, man. We really appreciate you hanging out with us and sharing. And if you don't know Brian, you should get to know Brian. He's a guy that you could just chat with for hours and hang out with. He's a really cool guy. I really appreciate you hanging out with us. Everybody that was with us today, I really appreciate y'all. If anybody has any questions about CEO Warrior or anything to do with this, don't hesitate to reach out to any members that you know, or reach out to Mike Disney. I'll give you his
Just
cell
reach
phone
out to-
number.
just reach out to
it
Mike.
is- I'm just kidding. I hope y'all have a really wonderful and safe day, everybody. Thank you again, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. That's awesome.